Right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get to our next discussion. Now, from the outcome of the 2023 elections, at least 8 political parties will be fairly represented in the 10th National Assembly, making it crucial to elect a Senate president that will be the choice of majority of the members and ensure sustainable democracy. As candidates jostle for the top position, many are asking that the seat be zoned to the South-South or the Southeast to allow a fair game among all tribes. But the decision still lies in the hands of the majority. For the Senate president, who presides over the Senate and ensures that members of the chamber follow the rule, is expected to also see to peace and transparency in governing the country. So this is the crux of our discussion next. Joining me in the studio is an author, media analyst, and internal control consultant, Adewale Justus. It's nice to have you join us now.
It's my pleasure.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Great.
Thank you very much.
And we also have former spokesperson, ASIWAJU Southwest Presidential Campaign Council, Ziggy Ibeh. Ziggy, good morning. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Welcome. Now, okay, now we have seen the campaigning across the country. We've seen intrigues. We've seen different kind of power play going on already. When it comes to the race for the leadership of the Senate and even the House of Representatives. Some persons have said, well, for the issue of fairness and as a way of healing the country, there should be the issue of zoning, taking the Senate presidency to the Southeast or the South-South. Others have said, well, the zone that produced or provided the highest number of votes that even brought this, that bettered the new government coming in the first place, should be considered as a way of a reward, as a way of saying thank you for what you have done. Well, let me start with you on this. Let's start from there, because that's one of the issues on the table right now.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate you for this focus. If I may start with something, in the existence of humanity, there's this doctrine of morality. Now, as a nation and as a people, in every democracy, electoral value speaks so much. So in that same vein, we now have a crux between the morality of the polity and then the concept and doctrine of electoral value. So of a truth, people that delivered sufficient and effective electoral values need to be rewarded, one side. But the doctrine of morality for the polity is, well, critical. So not minding the electoral values of the respective zones of the country, if as a nation we have the president coming from the Southwest, we have the vice president there from the North. Now the third in the row, the Senate president, it will be a transgenerational anomaly if that is thrown back
Transgenerational
anomaly, transgenerational. Wow. Because see, I wouldn't know if you were in Nigeria during the period of the doctrine of necessity.
Under Senate President David Mark.
God bless you.
Yeah.
So when the critical issue came up, then morality was set aside, constitutionalism was set aside, but the quest for the continual peace and ongoing safety of the nation Nigeria was brought afore, and the doctrine of necessity came in. And again, if I may remind you again, this issue of zoning of the presidency, not minding who was there, not minding who is interested, not minding where the votes may be coming from. The issue of let us be fair, it is called electoral fairness. So that's why the issue of zoning came in. But you will see, the party that decided to look away from that doctrine repeatedly loses it. So same way we are coming. No, not minding the vote or where the values were mostly vested. The concept of now, as a nation, we are 6 in geopolitical zonal arrangements. Now, if the president is coming from here, the vice is coming from here. Like I said, transgenerationally, it will be a consequential madness if the third in the row again goes back to where the second came from. So in a way of rewarding the electoral pedigree or integrity or support of the people where from the other thing is being, do you understand? There are so many positions in the country. So for fairness and morality, and for our continuous interrelationship as a people for the polity, I wouldn't see where heavens or even the heart beneath the waters would support the Senate presidency going back anywhere not.
Okay, now Ziggy, the last time we had a president from the Southwest was between 1999 and 2007. And at that time, we had the vice president also from the Northeast. And as it is, we had the Senate president. It seemed like it was the birthright at that time of the Southeast, where from Evan Enwerem to the Chubok Kadigbo to Anyim Pius Anyim to Adolphus Wabara, Ken Namani.
Yes.
The issue was that the Senate president was zoned to the Southeast. Taking a cue from there, a lot of persons have this conclusion that Southeast should naturally be the place to go, since it seemed like history has repeated itself, where the president is coming from the Southwest and the vice president from the Northeast. But others are saying, well, the Southeast shouldn't be the only consideration here, because the South-South is also part of that mix. Talk to us from that window.
Thank you so much. In every electioneering activities, a lot of things are brought into consideration. And one of them is reward, two is interest, and certain things are brought into play too. At this point, the party that had won now would want to consider first, how did our votes come? In which areas did we get highest numbers of votes? That could form the sharing formula, whether you like it or not, because that's where the interest comes. Because I recently wrote something that said, look, each time an election is concluded and winners are brought up, the next the politicians think about is the next electioneering period too, which is next 4 years. And their sharing formula goes the same way, because they will look at which area had given them much votes, which area did not give them what led to our winning and all that. So I think it is on this basis too, they share what belongs to who, okay? But in issues of fairness, balancing, and other areas that could bring about peace and all that, we now look at, okay, this has gone here, that has gone there, then the other part should take what is left and all that. In this area, we don't have a kind of hierarchy that supersedes the other, because it is all about leadership. And all of them form the basis of what leadership is all about. The other one has gone to the south, presidency has gone to the Southwest, Northeast has taken, then Northwest, from where major second largest votes that buoyed up this administration come from, shouldn't be looked down, okay? Because each time we appear like this and we begin to talk, we permutate. We're not okay. You must be able to do this in order to get this. You should be able to do that in order to get that, okay? Because we have in mind, I've been issued that, look, if you did not perform well, you might not get what is lying there. It's all about calculation. It's all about being arithmetical.
So from what you're saying, the least votes for when it comes per region for the APC came from the Southeast. So based on what you're saying is that Southeast cannot be considered.
Now look at this way. Our party, APC, who would go soon into trying to put regions into this, because whatever thing we say here, we are only looking at.
We're permutating.
We're
just analyzing.
Yes, we're only analyzing.
Yeah. The decision lies with the party.
The decision lies with the party. In the soonest time, they are going to say, okay, because this comes this way and all that, we are looking at for equity, justice, and balancing, ordinarily, it might go to southeast, south-south. Okay? The four federating units of the east didn't even give ASIWAJU votes that could even make him first, second, third. No. They gave the least vote. But not
by region.
Yeah, per region. Not per state. Okay, yeah, all put together.
Yeah,
all put together.
Region.
Yeah, lumped together. But northwest, Kano and some other states gave ASIWAJU the highest winning vote. Are we saying ASIWAJU is going to look away from there?
But he lost Kano. Kano actually wasn't.
Yeah, but in the region,
NNPP
in the total calculation of the region,
okay, the region,
he got the highest winning vote.
Right.
And don't forget, in the next few years, when the party will still go into election, looking for their vote again, they might bring up this idea: you did not give us what belongs to us when we gave you vote the last time.
Yeah, but some persons have said, like you were saying, some persons have said, even if you don't have the Senate presidency, there are different ways
to compensate
this.
Yes, yes.
Talk to us from that window before I go to him.
In the Senate leadership, the first person there is the Senate president, okay, which is the number 3. Number 4.
In the hierarchy.
Yes, in the hierarchy. Number 4 could be the Senate...
the Speaker.
The Speaker of the House, yeah. The Speaker
then
of the
Deputy Senate President
is the number 5 and all that. Yeah. So we are looking at, okay, some other people could be brought in, some other regions could be brought in this direction. Yeah. So that if you talk about the equity, if you talk about the balancing, if you talk about the bringing in federal character, reasoning and all that, everybody is now included. So it is all inclusive when all those leadership are being shared. But we are talking about who give what. So in the who give what, I think Northwest should be considered. Okay.
All right. Now, Adewale, there's something that a lot of persons are looking at. Seeing these offices as a reward, that by itself, a lot of persons said there's something wrong here. Because the office you're going into, you're going there to serve. You're going there to give. You're going there to make sure it benefits the people. So the moment that office is seen as a reward, now a lot of persons are saying that, okay, there's something in this office that is very juicy or very lucrative, and that is what people are eyeing instead of going there to work. Talk to us from there.
Thank you very much. I became unusually happy with your viewpoint. Because while he was analyzing, I was looking at the reward for value, the electoral value, the reward that goes for it. But now, from a national development angle, you see, it's so sad that as a people and in our polity, what we have upheld over the years has been that of the reward concept, not service. Because I think last week, Monday, we were talking at a session like this. I said it is an insanity yet. If all we are looking at, I was asking, see, the leadership of the National Assembly that is causing the bulk of this sludge, sorry, what attention have we given to professionalism? How many lawyers make the leadership of the legislature? Legislature is for lawmaking. Lawmaking, law review. Taking cues from recent events and happenings in the country. People that are meant to, like I was sharing with him, I said, of the number of persons that have been scheduled for these almighty positions, please, can we have highlighted pedigree, performance pedigree of theirs in the assembly? Because unfortunately, you know, this issue of a non-returning senator cannot make it.
Ranking
now,
senator.
A top ranking, sorry, what makes a ranking senator? How many new bills introduced? How many projects funded? How many representations of their constituencies did they make?
But it's already a standing rule in the National Assembly that ranking senators...
a very immoral... You see, that is the essence of legislation. Legislation is that, peradventure, there are inconsistencies and some surreptitious issues. We should try part time to make amends. But unfortunately, because of our polity and the focus and vision of some of the politicians, if I may say, is unlike what you are positing. What he is saying from the party's angle is reward for electoral contributions. But now, unfortunately, I can be sure the party is not considering the development of the people and service onto the constituency. And like I was saying now, if it is about service and not reward, there are over 17,000 appointment offices in the Nigerian political system into which people can be.
That people can be.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So you see, the critical aspect of the National Assembly leadership is an area that almost all Nigerians have never looked into. What is the relevance of the age of Methuselah to the wisdom of Solomon? A top-ranking senator that has been sitting legislatively idle and dormant. Do you understand? Because like the names that have been chopped up now, I've been asking, what categorical contributions legislatively have they made? Do you understand?
But can you take away the experience because the point that when you're sitting on that chair as the president of the Senate or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, you require a lot of experience to be able to navigate.
If available.
But the point there is that where do you put the issue of experience? I'll make you answer this. On this segment, we're looking at the race for the leadership of the National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly. Come June or July, in a few months, we'll be having a new leadership at the National Assembly. And Nigerians are looking at all of the intrigues that are going on right now, the horse trading, the currents, the political undercurrents that are going on right now, the lobbying so far, and that is what we're looking at. Some have said, well, for the issue of fairness and for national healing, that the Senate presidency and the House of Senate presidency should be zoned to the southeast or the south-south as a way of balancing these things. But others have said, no, let's keep it where we got the chunk of votes from. That's the fair thing to do. But so we're looking at all of these issues, and I have Ziggy Ibeh with me in the studio, as well as Adewale Justus. Now, before we went on the break, I was asking where the place of experience is when it comes to leadership, because you're going to need, like someone said, the National Assembly is an institution of politics. So how to navigate when some things come up? You're going to need experience to be able to navigate some things, because it's not just being the leader of the Senate. It's about politicking well. What do you make of that?
Thank you very much. While we were initiating this, I was about saying some things. Now, on the altar of experience, is it legislative experience, leadership experience, or politicking experience? There are so many differences between leadership and politicking, as well legislature. Now, are we looking at an experienced legislator or an experienced politician or an experienced leader? Hello? Politics has already overtaken the entirety of this. All the parties, like the agent here has said, all they have been looking at is reward. But now in attending to the concept and the spirit and the anointing of their rewards, they have stepped down a lot of critical issues. And like I was saying, what has the age of Methuselah gotten to do with the wisdom of Solomon? See, if I may be very, very factual, how many lawmakers do we have in the National Assembly? Now, for those that are eyeing the presidency of the Senate, if you go back to the days of Saraki Bukola, go back to the days of Ken Namani, and the whole lot, performance pedigree, what can anyone highlight of these men? We are dwelling so much on politicking, not performance. So if we are looking at experience on what? Is it legislative experience? Because a man that does not know how billing, how the trades of acts, and how sponsorship, and how to quell the interpersonal issues in the house, how they are being handled, what betide him if because of regional politicking, it comes up to be the Senate president? And again, leadership, the art of getting things done through others and coordinating people for peace. If that is thrown off, on the altar of regional compensation for electoral votes. Again, we are worse off. So my position in alluding to a bit of his sentiment is the fact that, see, the person for the office, not the zone where from he emerges. The person is an embodiment.
Should be the emphasis.
Be honest, the person,
Okay.
not the zone. Now the party is there, settled. But whoever the party wants to throw forth, what are the pedigrees undertoning and underlining the personality? Is he a leadership non-entity like we have been having?
Yeah, but it becomes challenging to begin to measure what is the person's leadership
pedigree or performance.
What is the benchmark? Exactly. How do you benchmark somebody's competence and all of that?
That is so this topic is leading us to, we are going back to the abandoned burial ground of the nation's leadership polity. How do I mean? Unfortunately, as a date, there are no particular highlights to identify the performance of a leader of the National Assembly. If I may ask you, who categorically can you pull out of the entirety of the 109 senators and the over 366 House of Rep members that has categorically made contributive legislation?
Since this democracy began?
Since 1999 till date. Contributory legislation. How do I mean? There, you know, we have extant issues, extant tribal clauses and clogs that have been derailing the nation's growth. But over the years, how many have we had? Just like the issue we discussed last week about the issue of zoning. And again, you know, they said the election went tribal. I said it wouldn't, but have gone tribal. How? Why? The Southwest came out with ASIWAJU. The Southeast came up with Obi. The North came up with an article. Everybody will go and kill behind his brother. But you know, there is a way we could avoid this ahead of our next electoral processes. See, let it be maybe because unfortunately I said it is a political problem that cannot be solved constitutionally. It will require political solutions.
Yeah.
And what are the political solutions? So quick, very quick one. Zoning by the parties. Gentleman agreement. So that for the repeated time, any time the nation is going into a general election, all the parties should come together and ensure that their candidates emanate from the same region.
Okay. All right. Now, the point there is the issue of looking at the candidate from where he comes from becomes an issue. Because as far as Nigeria is concerned, whoever becomes the president of Nigeria is not going to come from the moon. It is either going to come from...
Must come from a region.
It must come from a region.
And the state.
And it must come from a tribe.
Yes.
And it must belong to one religion.
Yes, but...
So the point there is, when we have to stereotype a president from what tribe he speaks or what religion,
I think in every country, what people look at is leadership stability. Because that's what moves the leadership forward and governance.
Okay.
Where you have rancors, where you have frozen relationship and all that, certain things will not come in place. Governance will be at jeopardy. And I tell you, during Obasanjo, we had five
Senate
presidents from five eastern
all the five
states.
eastern states. Produce one at least.
Produce one at least during Obasanjo. And that causes a lot of friction in dishing out governance. That is where the experience comes in. That's where the skill comes in. That's where the competency comes in. Because he was trying to say that sometimes leadership experience and other qualities are not needed. They are needed. Because those are the pedigrees. Those are the things that have really snake you through the problems you've seen anywhere. Okay? So they are needed. During Obasanjo, you hardly can point at any Senate president that had made a particular law legislatively that actually give good governance to the people. Because within a month or two, one is gone. And all that. So one begins to quarrel with, is it coming from Obasanjo's...
Banana peel phenomenon.
Is it coming from Obasanjo's issue or is it coming from the leadership of the Senate? You know? So, and these are beginning issues. Now, when Obasanjo left, Yar'Adua came in and David Mark became the Senate president. From David Mark down to Jonathan, it was a really cordial relationship between the executive and the legislators. We had good ride. We had smooth ride. Okay? And that is indicative of all they've done, the leadership qualities. David Mark, in fact, there was no quarrel at all. All true. David Mark and the executive were all doing well. Now comes PMB with Saraki. And we knew how all started. Saraki eventually shunted a process of his party and eventually emerged. While the party was meeting somewhere to bring up someone, Saraki already had got his friends who eventually queued behind him, and lo and behold, he was pronounced Senate president. And that was the beginning of that issue, the beginning of that administration until Saraki left after 4 years. And when Saraki left, Lawan came. We saw how all has been. No quarrel, no frozen relationship. We were talking, and governance was all good. So now this is just building on.
Well, so some persons would not say
some
it was all good.
With that. Some people have quarrel with
feel
that.
there's a rubber stamp national.
Oh, sure. But then a name must be given to it. A name must be given to it, whether you like it or not. There must be a name attached to it.
All right.
Because when husband and his wife are quarreling, they say no, both of them are. There must be a tag. But when the husband and wife they are not quarreling, they say no, the man is a woman rapper.
So there must be a name.
There must be a name tag. There must be issue. Okay, so we are saying each time a leadership must be thrown up on the people, we go for competence. In fact, the National Assembly that made that law that you must not be a fresher. Okay. They knew well that, look, a fresher wouldn't know the nitty-gritty of the goings-ons of the house. So you must not be a first-timer. And the moment you've been there, and look, so many of them are so many of them are chairmen of committees, several committees, okay? And we've known so many of these chairmen who had actually legislated well or gone on their what's it called, oversight function, and done it well. Okay, those are people who would not say, okay, why do we label some of the leaders not performing well? Some are very silent. In fact, some go there to sleep. You understand? And this is where the leadership qualities and experience comes in. We must get someone. There's something I remembered. We must look at this what is it called, federal character issue. Is not actually giving us what we want.
Well, but the federal character is for
it just balances.
Appointment and civil. But when it comes to the political level, it is zoning.
Yes, because federal character issue will only throw up certain individuals who ordinarily wouldn't have done a good job. But because they are needed to balance the personnel stuff and the space, then they must be taken. And the person goes there to mess up so many things. We are not saying you might not have got the best one, but the quality of the person might not have been known about that time. Okay. So,
but that's the reality we have with
yes, and that's why the party says, look, we must zone so many of these things. So many things must be considered. Reward system must be there. Look, if we talk about reward system, we can't go away with it. Because one, if you are working for me, there must be a reward system. A situation where, without performance, how do you give reward? A reward comes with a performance. Okay? And that is the way it must be shared.
It's all right. When it comes to the reward issue, so some people would say, of course, when your party comes into government and now you run the government, you can now decide, okay, how do I allocate infrastructural development and as the case may be? One would see that as a reward. But let's look at, now, based on these principles of separation of powers, the three arms of government are independent.
Supposedly independent.
Yes, supposedly independent. You know, by the Constitution, they are independent. But the principles of checks and balances also makes them lean on each other.
Yes, they linked each other.
Kind of, because I watch you, you watch me,
watch me.
you know, to ensure that your excesses exactly
Are curtailed.
Now, we know how the executive is, as much as in the eyes of the law or in that principle is supposed to be independent, but we see the level of influence it wields on the other arms of government, especially even the judiciary.
Yep.
Now, what is the role of the president-elect in all of these schemings? Because some of the politicians will say, okay, let us wait to hear what the president-elect would say. Some are even saying, let us wait for him to return from his trip abroad.
That's why he's returning.
so that some of these things can be taken care of. What role do you think the president-elect plays in all of these?
Sorry, for history, for records, and for performance and knowledge over the years, even across the globe, it's an all-encompassing role.
Okay.
Because you would see, except you want to kill behind the demons here and deny some very basic knowledge, the president is all in all. May I share with you? In the course of the previous electioneering exercise, you know, some governors visited Mr. President, PMB, and said, Baba, please, who would you anoint of this? But you heard what he said in Daura. He said, I would say nothing because even the vice president is hearing us. So if I now tell anybody who I support, there's a aberration there. So the president, the head of the executive, is the head of the government. And like we have been hijacking our discussions, he is determining who gets what politically. Having been handed over the electoral might, it determines what happens everywhere, except per career structure, the judiciary. Although, unfortunately, you know, the head of the judiciary, again, they now will be a nominee, an appointee of the same president.
Exactly.
So that is why a nation that unfortunately onboards a non-entity as a president will get nothing in return for the entire governance. Either we like it or not, the head of the National Assembly must be someone of the president. Today.
Nominated?
No, it's nominated unofficially.
The president's person.
Yes, he must be nodded. See, the party is picking him. The party will support him. And what makes the party to support anybody is that the head of the party, I wouldn't know if you are aware, the head of the government and the head of the party, they are joined and fused together. The president leads the party. You remember your uncle that you mentioned, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo? What he wanted
so he's my uncle now, eh?
I saw that on your face. What Chief Olusegun Obasanjo wanted.
He's my uncle now.
No.
That's nice. If you dash me an uncle like that, I think it's okay. It's good.
The terminal references you made to him made me see the congenital relationship you have. You understand? See, if he could, by his will, successively terminated the offices of 4 Senate presidents. He wanted them that way.
But there's no evidence that he was responsible for the banana peel.
Evidences abound monumentally.
Okay.
I am a trained internal auditor and controller.
They could be deductive, but if you ask
deductive
him...
with reasons and with sports.
It's all right.
Like we are saying, there may be presumed checks and balances. But unfortunately, you know, if I may abuse a sentiment of his, when he said it was because somebody was somebody, the government was peaceful, there was no accusation. Woe betide that. That is what even worsens governance. The legislature standing is supposed to checkmate the executive. But the checkmate should not be in nuisance.
Where there's infraction.
No, not infraction now. Not necessarily infraction. Supervision can be post-mortem. Supervision can be premeditated, depending on the level of knowledge and ignorance of the parties involved. You know, a standing legislature would watch before executive implements, would watch after executive implements, but only if the legislator knows. So a standing legislature will be on the neck and the toes of the executive to checkmate whatever the executive would have to do for the benefit of the system, not the legislature or the executive, but where you have a rubber stamp legislature, it will be non-entity raised to power 4.
All right. Now, as it is, we're wrapping up gradually. This, the 10th Assembly will be, I think, from the history, since the last 20 years, the 10th Assembly will be the assembly that has multiple political parties.
Yeah.
You know, the first of its
mix.
kind.
Yeah.
Now, talk to us from that window. There was even the move for all the various the opposition political parties to come together and form a bloc.
Yes.
You know, and then see if the possibility of overtaking the. Talk to us from that window. What will be their roles in this?
Most times when you have a mixture of nominees from various political parties, it makes the system interesting. Okay. Because you are getting ideas from various persons and various interests, non-interest groups. And that's exactly what garnishes the democracy we are talking about. Because interest from various areas comes, certain agreements are not agreed on, but in those disagreements, they will all come to agree at a point. Because that's exactly what governance is all about. Okay. So at this point, what they do is throw up one person, begin to checkmate the activities of that same person, so that give it, leave it, or seems the time is up, because
exactly.
I can read that for you.
I am trying to wind you down. But in all, it seems we're going to see a robust opposition in the National Assembly. In the 10th National Assembly.
All
right.
will be
really interesting.
Will be better, yes.
Okay. We have to wrap up now. I must thank you, Ziggy Ibeh, for your time and insight into all of this.
Thank you
very much. Adewale Justus, you have taken us to another level. In fact, you took us to the classroom here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much. We hope to have more of you both in the studio. All right. This is where we wrap up on the program, and we need to let you know that the views and reaction of all our resource persons are their views and have no connection with TVC News. On behalf of my colleague Veronica, we'll see you tomorrow. I am Mike Okwoche. Up next is Your View with Morayo and the ladies. Bye now.